Okay, well, I met Ron in Richmond, Virginia, where he lives. I don't live anymore, but I came to the States. Thank you, Jennifer, for organizing this. Really appreciate it. And thank you, my son, Petar Gary, who's in the audience. And thank you, John Gary, who's dealing with our hurricane-prone house in New Orleans at the moment. So this is dedicated to my son and to my husband. But the poem that I'd begin with is from my first book. It's got, a little French theme here, Le Riche Monde. It's about Richmond when I came to the States from Yugoslavia, which was a country then, not anymore. But a little background, my background, I'm Serbian American. I moved away from Yugoslavia when I was 9. I went to an American school in Greece and then moved to India, to Bombay, where I finished high school, then back to Yugoslavia. And then I came to the States in 88 to do my MFA. And Ron had just graduated that May, correct? Something like that, around there?
3 years, actually.
3 years. Okay, so there's like a little gap there between us. And so this is the first poem. Le Riche Monde. I have to get out of this shell, this city. I've never been inside a tank, but elevators like rat holes seem claustrophobic, and so does Belgrade. My mind seems buried in ashes, 1,000 years of history, wars, victories. So I get on a plane to live in the Le Riche Monde, the tobacco company land, the new world for me, new values, new faces, new names, different sounds, foods and smells, a vinegar and sugar dressing poured over salad. I begin to feel springs of fresh liveliness, desire for success, fulfilling requirements. My own this time, my own happiness. What else is there I can get? It's a very early poem, and I want to read it. This is about another one from that same collection. It's about, sort of realizing that there are so many differences, and one of them is windows between, my country and my old country and my new country. In America, windows open halfway, the lower half raised next to the higher, so you can never let in enough air. You cannot open the window inside to wash the outside. Once the glasses fit in, that's in. That's it. The window gets dirtier, darker, dustier, and then you can't see through. The window becomes another wall with no air or sunshine penetrating. The existence of windows loses meaning. People don't look through them anymore. Artificial lighting lights the rooms. What little life there was inside dies, but now they have invented artificial fertilizers to help the plants grow upwards without the sun's rays. Can they do that for people too? American scientists, yes, you, who have invented so much already. Is it too hard for you to invent windows that can't be washed? Or is it a conspiracy against your people and that which produces life? My next book was called Little Disruptions. And no, that's not the right one. Frozen Embraces, sorry. And so I'm going to read the title poem from that book. It sort of continues the weirdness of the new world that I was living in. Frozen Embraces. My neighbor took my laundry out of the dryer, fingering my panties, touching me almost. Who is he to tell me my clothes aren't dry enough? His mother had taught him to dry his clothes well. This neighbor ordering me to spend money I don't have, not even 1/4. I'll just hang them around my place, put them on chairs, doorknobs, to dry as we used to do back home where dryers don't even exist. So that my own mother couldn't have even told me to dry my clothes well. She'd leave clothes outside on a line to hang wet in winter to freeze, then bring them in before going to bed. looking like dry fish, letting the pieces of clothing embrace the furniture in our living room, release a fresh odor in the air. That same mother had breast cancer. And so this poem is called Three Breasts. Has an epigraph from Audre Lorde. Since naturally black is naturally beautiful, I must be proud. I've outgrown my mother's breasts. Now my own draw attention, often in their black, beautifully laced dressings, to be taken off by that special one who calls long distance, to tell them to give them a little squeeze in the shower while I bathe just for him, until he can one day bring his own jar of honey to lick off of them. The photos taken in front of the Oak Alley plantation in the tight green tank top expose them in their full splendor. I must send these photos for him to squeeze whatever comes into his mind when he sees them so much bigger now. Will he see them in real life before I have one or both of them removed? If I'm lucky, I'll have some 20 years to go. If not, Mother and I will have a few left, she with one, I with two, cancer prone. Would he even then bring his jar? Last checkup was okay. It matters. It really matters. So this little book came out in ex-Yugoslavia in Serbia, and it's finally coming out in the States this fall. I just got the proofs, and it's going to be published from the same publisher in October, Word Tech Editions from Cincinnati, and it's going to have the same amazing, writers of the Apocalypse Durer's painting that I just love. So I'm going to read some poems from that book. The first one is called Haystacks in the Fall, after Vincent van Gogh's Haystacks in Provence, 1888. It's an ekphrastic poem. What difference does it make whether the haystacks are in Provence or Kosovo, the Pampas or Nebraska? Golden domes on empty, dusty fields, they crown the season's end. The labor that went into them remains invisible as they lie, usually out of sight from farmers' homes, unlike here, where those yellow houses shimmer in the background. A peasant woman with a bucket walks around these 3 stacks of hay. High ladders still lean on the side of the one to the right, as if its top still needs more hay, or to be covered so the rain doesn't rot it or make it unusable for the cattle that cannot graze or anything green in the fields for a while, but instead have to be content with those dried, sweet-smelling remnants of summer, of the late sun and rain. Soon the snow will cover them, and they, like old men lying in open caskets, will look like beards sticking upward, their golden bristles pointing to the sky. So some of you know John. He's the secretary of the Pound Society and is preparing the conference at the moment, intercontinental conference. It's going to be kind of crazy. And so what he does, let's see if I can find it, is he teaches in northern Italy. Can't seem to find it. I don't know where it is. Sorry. I thought I had it. Oh. I'm going to read 136. Okay. Yeah. So this is a poem. He teaches Ezra Pound and his workshop in northern Italy, where Ezra Pound's daughter, Mary the Rackewilds, lives. And she loves this poem. She just, we've been going there for I don't know, over 25 years, and John's been going there for 30 years. So this is a poem for Mary's 80th birthday. She's actually 96. It's going to be 96 this July. Evening Light for Mary de Racqueville. It's his 80th birthday. It's about the castle where they live. Mary always says no more than 3-4 people should gather on the faculty balcony, as it's never been tested for strength, and she doesn't know whether the wood it's made of is rotten. If more stand on it, it may collapse. I suppose if I had to die, this would be as good a place as any, as even Pound may have stood on this spot looking out from the castle onto Murano, its valley, the river Alto Adige, and the surrounding Dolomites. Perhaps it would be evening when the light is best and the birds are chirping before going to bed. Slowly in the distance, the chalets, houses would be lit up one by one as the peaceful night would arrive unobtrusively, sneaking in, so as not to wake the baby already in his crib. I would suddenly fall into the arms of the fig tree below us, ready with a fig leaf to cover me when I meet Adam and Eve in paradise, who I hope would at least offer me a glass of wine so I could toast life dearly departed. I have my students write a poem about, how they want to die. It's kind of fun. So this was my version. I write with them most of the time. The next book is this book with one of my paintings. Oh, these are my paintings. Also, I paint as well. So these two are my covers. This one is kind of Shakespeare, kind of surreal, kind of. And another poem that has to do with the same kind of theme from the castle is called Hawks, a Sparrow, and Bat, for John at Brunenberg Castle, Dorf, Tyrol, Italy. Before watering Mary's plants, I paused to watch Tess batting the sparrow with her paws. The bird was still eyeing me, pleading for help. Tess stopped her hunt while I approached to get the hose, turned the water on. But then she continued devouring the poor creature below the wooden bench where we usually have tea with Mary each day at 4. What will Mary say when she notices the feathers empty of the body? No wonder Tess hasn't touched her food on the windowsill. On the other side of the apartment, I spot above on the pine tree 3 hawks. 3 hawks scope the land for prey, then make sounds, speak while I zoom with my camera, trying to see them close up. The wind blows, windows rattle, the sounds eerie as if ghosts are nearby. John says when he and his class read Pound, who lived here, birds smashed into the windows like one of these hawks yesterday. Pound, reincarnated? Apparently he wasn't going to tell us, my husband, protecting us, his family, that last night a bat had come in through one of the open windows and landed on the cantos, low enough for him to throw a shirt on the light-scared creature, then released him out of the window to fly away so we wouldn't know he had been right above our heads as we slept. So when we go to Venice, he likes to take his students to the grave where Pound is buried, and right next to him is Joseph Brodsky. And so this is for Joseph Brodsky, born 1940, 1996, a fellow poet who, moved to the States from Russia and started writing in English and became U.S. Poet Laureate. there were only 2 or 3 foreigners who became Simic is one, right? Postmortem. Every year I have been visiting your grave, Mr. Brodsky, yet I have never known you. You lie near another great Mr. Pound together with his lover, whom I have also not known, but whom my husband wants to see. Here in this portrait of Avedon, 5 years before you died, you were 51, 5 years older than I am now. You were bald and gray, with a forehead full of deep lines, some horizontal, some vertical, others around your eyes and nose, even neck. Did you know then what I know about you now? Venice is a nice place to be buried in. Everybody's doubled, save destiny, save the very H2O. The holes in your shaggy t-shirt and spots of paint or dirt, the checkered jacket with some pens in your top left corner reveal your spirituality. The external, temporary, and unreliable had no relevance. If we had met, I would have tried speaking to you in Russian, so perhaps we would have understood each other. Like you, I will never return to my homeland physically, but we cannot erase who we are. I paged through the notebooks others left by your grave. I placed a pebble on your headstone as others have done before me. I even sat there a single flower, little candle as the Orthodox do. Does your daughter Anna, a mere baby when you died, even though you had promised her in a poem you'd be around, come to see you, keep an eye as often as I do? I will stay here in America where my own poems read others like yours, but every summer, once again, I'll take the Vaporetto across the lagoon to take yet another look at you as a daughter would a father. The last poem in this book is about it's about Paris, but kind of a surreal thing that happened that really affected me as a child, that I was obsessed with Ramses II for years. It's called Ramses' Devotion. After Ramses the Great, 1303 BC to 1213 BC, he reigned from 1279 to 1213 BC. And so every time I fly to Paris, I think of him. In 1974, Ramses II, redhead mummy, was flown to Paris from Cairo for an examination, as it had been infested with a kind of fungus attacking his body. Issued an Egyptian passport that listed his occupation as king deceased, the mummy was received at Le Bourget airport just outside Paris with the full military honors befitting a king. They then killed his fungus. The examination revealed battle wounds, old fractures, arthritis, and poor circulation, just like the rest of us. I wondered if when he was alive he had dreamt of flying, and now actually was, after death, over 3,000 years later. Oh, if he only knew, what would he have thought? For a while, when I was a teenager, I was obsessed with him, thought his exposed face was so well preserved. Now, I don't quite understand my fascination back then. What did I see in him? But then again, this type of trans-world transgression or transportation does not occur very often. What happened to, may he rest in peace? But then why rest? Fly the friendly skies, be set free. And if I can find it, I was going to read a newer poem that's from one of my 2 books that I haven't been able to deal with, looking for publishers, because I've been a translator for years now. One of my latest books is by a Serbian poet, Zvonko Karanovic, Sleepwalkers on a Picnic, published by Dialogos Press. And I'm also the co-editor and mostly I'm the translator of Cat Painters, an anthology of contemporary Serbian poetry, which was published in 2016, 400 some pages long, with 71 Serbian poets. And so it's a really an amazing book. It took me 4.5 years to work on it. So so maybe I'll have more time now for my own work. But here's one from one of my new books that I wanted to read, and if I can find it, and of course I can't. Let's see. Sorry. I haven't looked at this for a while. No, it's not here. Of course not. Sorry about that. I guess I'll read this one. This is called Unlike My Happy Baby. It's another ekphrastic poem after Vincent van Gogh's The Baby Marcel Roulin, 1888. Don't know if it's a boy or a girl at first glance. The baby's dressed in a white outfit with a white cap, but it had a gold bracelet on its right hand and a ring on its pinky finger with a salmon-colored coral cameo, a face on the ring, even though it's a bit too young for a ring. It has to be a she, but we cannot be sure, as boys do wear rings and bracelets too. This is a well-fed baby, just like my son, who was huge at birth. Its blue eyes stare at the floor, not smiling, with its bright red lips. Must have just eaten and is wondering what's next on this earth. The postman Joseph's daughter, Marcel, longs for her dad to come home from doing his rounds in Arles, their hometown, to play with her. Until then, she must sit here and pose for Uncle Vincent, who is not very funny. Or in fact, did Vincent paint her from memory? As what baby would sit without crying for so long, especially with smelly turpentine and oil color fumes surrounding it? The youngest chubby pink-cheeked child painting with a green, great contrast in the background. Now back in Amsterdam, Holland, home to Vincent, she's his unrealized child forever now. I'm sorry I couldn't find that poem. I wish I could read it. But I'll give it one more last try. Okay, so maybe this is a funny poem. I'll end with that. So it's called Falling Iguana Alert. A semi-found poem, January 21st, 2020. 1. When the authorities issued the falling iguana alert at the end of January in Florida, due to cold temperatures, they also warned people not to assume that the iguanas were dead. They become immobile when temperatures drop into the 40s. This invasive species is known for eating through landscaping in the Sunshine State. No, we're not making this up. They're cold-blooded, slow down, may fall from trees, and often they stiffen. This has been observed over the years in South Florida. They become lethargic at 50 degrees, but in the 40s, their blood doesn't move as quickly as it normally does. They frequent trees. So well-meaning residents are advised to leave them alone, as they may feel threatened by you and bite once they warm up again. Green iguanas dig burrows and undermine infrastructure, But this 2-week cold snap should be short-lived, says the Weather Service. Temperatures will rebound in the 70s for highs in Miami. The Weather Service tweeted, "Brrr," in their unofficial warning, so watch out. 2. Apparently, some residents were not so well-meaning, as suddenly lizard meat was up for sale in Florida. During this cold spell, reptiles were lying on the ground half frozen. So iguana meat, dubbed chicken of the trees, started showing up for sale on Facebook. Marketplace overnight in South Florida. Mango season may be months away, but if you live in South Florida today, your trees may be ripe for the picking of iguanas. Tacos, anyone? Do people really eat iguana meat? They sure do. On skewers, in stew, and in nuggets. The nightmare of the iguanas has begun. Residents are told to kill green iguanas wherever possible, as they are an invasive species native to Central America, but are allowed as pets in Florida, unprotected by any laws except anti-cruelty to animals. They have been in Florida since the 60s. Their numbers have increased dramatically in recent years. The result of milder winters. That boy ain't going nowhere. The young one couldn't take it. Might be dead, but the old survive. This one's for Christine, for your paper. Thank you.